Mothers are often faced by riddles which children ask, which are not so easy to answer. It starts off when the kids are really little, and often the questions are basically surreal. What's inside of flies? Or why do we have two eyes if there's only one thing we're looking at? Things which are tricky to answer because kids see the world from different angles than we do. And then as kids get older, the questions become more about fairness. You often see this at restaurants, right? One family, all the kids have their phones out. Other family, that's not allowed. Why are they allowed to use their phones and we're not? Basic fairness issues. And then, when kids get a little bit older and they go to high school, the questions get tougher. Because kids can come home quite upset saying, popular kids, are telling lies and getting away with it. They're being mean. They're saying things about me and my friends that aren't true, but they're the popular ones, and everybody thinks that we're rotten because of what they're saying. And of course, in our age, that's always happened in high school hallways. But in our age, those kids can post that stuff to social media and amplify it. So suddenly it seems like your entire reputation is wrecked, not just on the floor of your school, but in the whole world. So mothers have a lot to wrestle with when kids say, why should I be honest if they get away with being dishonest and they actually prosper from it? Well, today's psalm is very aware of that question. It's actually totally devoted to that kind of question because it's talking about how there's two ways of living in life. There's a good path and a bad path. And it is contrasting them, and you don't have to guess. You can know that the psalm's going to side with the good. But the way it's written, and this is the first psalm of the 150 psalms, the way it's written is it sounds like it was written so it could be understood by children as well as adults, because it uses some very visual metaphors and actions. So I'd like us to read it again, but this time we're going to read it all together. And I'm going to ask you guys to participate in the reading. So I'd like to ask you all to stand up as you are able. And if you can't stand up, no worries. A lot of this has got to do with our hands. So I'm going to read it out, and I'm going to do some actions. And if you guys could mimic my actions, okay? So first, we're going to mime as though we're walking, okay? Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, nor, go like this, and sort of point your back to whoever you're next to, nor stand in the way that sinners take. And now everybody sit down. Nor sit in the company of mockers. Blessed is the one whose delight is in the law of the Lord, who meditates on God's law day and night. Now everybody stand again. Now this time I want you to make like a tree. Okay, so hands up. Your fingers are the leaves. Okay? That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yield its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither, and whatever they do prospers. Now bring your hands down like this and put one out like this. Not so the wicked. They are like chaff that the wind blows away. Now you can sit down. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. The way of the wicked is doomed. It's pretty strong language. And is it true? Is the way of the wicked doomed? I've been thinking about this week, reading the news coming out of New York City as the 45th president stands trial for a hush money trial where he's accused of having paid off various people that he had extramarital affairs with to keep their silence so that it wouldn't endanger his chances of winning the 2016 election. Now, the 45th president, as we know, is an inveterate liar, seems to lie the way the rest of us breathe. And he's gotten ahead. He's been a very successful liar, famous, wealthy, and his inner circle, as we've heard during this trial, also spends a lot of time lying. People break their non-disclosure agreements. Lawyers break their confidentiality agreements. Accountants who are expected to keep his dirty work secret, they're all blabbing now. The company that he keeps, both the ones featured in this trial as well as the ones where he was in the White House with, were, generally speaking, very wealthy people who told a lot of lies. And some of them went to jail, but a lot of them have gotten away with it. And the question that mothers have to answer, is it okay to lie? Isn't it better? Won't you get further ahead? Well, his cronies would seem to suggest, yes, you can totally get away with it. And if you look at how things have gone for Trump, as he has been pushing and appealing and getting his cases to be delayed, well, that seems like a pretty effective strategy. And the fact is that it's really expensive to prosecute people. It takes a lot of time and money, particularly if you're going up against rich people and rich corporations. They have the money to figure out the legal technicalities so that you can delay getting to court, so that you can launch appeals. There's all sorts of ways of getting around the legal system, and prosecutors have to make a call. Is this worth it? Is this worth the resources of my department to actually try and prosecute this person? Will the evidence actually get us a guilty conviction? And last week, or maybe it was the week before, we all heard, I suspect with dismay, that Harvey Weinstein's conviction of sexual assault had been overturned by a court. Basically, legal technicality. And Bill Cosby, 2 years before, same thing. Legal technicality got him off. So people who have been accused of serial sexual assault have been able to be released. So the Me Too movement, of course, is reeling from this, and for good reason. It sure looks like the wicked are not doomed, but the wicked can get ahead. Now, does that mean that the Bible is just, doesn't know what it's talking about? Well, actually, last summer we did a Bible study of the book of Job. And that's an entire book devoted to the idea that it's silly to think that only bad people get punished by God and only good people get rewarded. Job is a good man who is suffering, and he's got 4 friends who tell him the only reason that you're suffering is because you sinned. And Job says, that's not true. The world is not that simple. And at one point, he says these words, "Why do the wicked live on, growing old and increasing in power? They see their children established around them, their offspring before their eyes. Their homes are safe and free from fear. The rod of God is not on them. They spend their years in prosperity and go down to the grave in peace." So the Bible gets it. The Bible understands that wicked people can get to the finish line with all of their money and all of their toys and their mansions and their cars. Yep, you can get to the end lying and cheating your whole way through. So what's a mom supposed to say to her child when she says, "Why should I bother being honest? They're getting ahead by lying." And what could it possibly mean that the way of the wicked is doomed? I think modern psychology can actually help us with this. In the last couple of years, like the last 20 years, psychologists have been looking at lying. They've been trying to figure out who lies and why and what effect it has. And one of the things they've discovered is basically everybody lies. This room is full of liars, apparently. I'm sorry. But the lies that most people tell are what psychologists call altruistic lies. We would call them little white lies. Do I look fat in this outfit? Child comes off stage. "How was I, Mummy?" "Oh, you were the best dancer on the stage." It doesn't matter if it's true, right? Sorry. I'm sure your mother always told the truth. But overall, we tell little white lies to grease the wheels of social interaction because it's nice, it's kind to do. And it doesn't make you feel bad about yourself. And generally speaking, the people who tell little white lies are people who have good self-esteem. They don't have to tell lies about how great they are because they already feel pretty good about themselves. So that's one kind of lying. There's another kind of lying, though, as we've been seeing in the news, which is lying where you tell lies so that you can seem bigger and more important than you are. You lie on a resume, you lie about your achievements, and you may lie about other people as well to put them down so you can get ahead. Those sorts of lies are told by a much smaller proportion of the population, fortunately. And what's interesting is these psychological studies looked at the self-esteem ratings of the people who told the white lies and the people who told these more vindictive lies. And they found that the people who tell vindictive lies have lower self-esteem than the people who tell white lies, and very few lies. So people who don't feel good about themselves are the ones who are telling lies to make themselves seem bigger and lies to put other people down. And there was another element which they found in these tests. When they had people keep diaries to record how often a day they lied and how they felt on those days, they found that the people who lied the most felt the worst. They experienced more negative emotions on a daily basis, more sadness, despair, self-recrimination. It didn't feel good to lie. Even if it got them ahead, it didn't feel good to lie. And so that's one of the ways in which we can look at this and say, maybe people may be able to get ahead by lying. They're getting ahead on the outside, but they're not getting ahead on the inside. And our psalm speaks to this. I'd ask you to rise one more time. The psalm tells us that someone who is cared for by God is like a tree, right? So let's be a tree again. Okay. So this time I'd ask you to close your eyes. Wiggle your fingers. And the text says that person is like a tree planted by streams of water. Now I want you to imagine that your feet are roots, and the roots are going deep into the ground, many, many meters. And imagine that the water, you can feel the water on your roots, feeding you. So you're deeply rooted, and if a wind comes, it's not going to knock you down. You're fed from below. And imagine the feeling of that cool water coming up through the roots into your trunk, getting all the way to your leaves, your fingers that are waving. You are firmly rooted and you are fed. You are a person who God loves, and God will continue to feed and give you stability. Okay, you can open your eyes now. We are all loved by God. Some of us don't know it or understand it and don't believe it. They may feel that they're not deserving of God's love, but everybody is. We can all be those trees rooted beside that stream of life-giving water, no matter what we've done, and it's never too late to get there. So be confident that love is always there for you, to feed you, to keep you rooted, come what may in life. And if you know someone who's lying and so forth, have mercy. See them as a person who is suffering, and they may come around. And perhaps by your positive example of just being patient and rooted, they may see that there is another way. Amen.